Hello, Wakulla, and welcome to the Wakulla Sunday radio program with Herb Donaldson. It was Halloween, the late 1970s. My little friends and I had trick-or-treated all over downtown Crawfordville. The drugstore, the IGA, the post office, courthouse, sheriff's department, the Wakulla Bank. We had now come to the old Wakulla Library. We climbed the stairs all the way to the top, opened the door, entered a room that was completely dark, but filled with people. Most of them our age. We could tell by the laughter and the crunch, the smell of popcorn. Playing in front of us on a silver screen was the original black and white version of King Kong. He was fighting this huge snake, and just when you thought it was over, King Kong grabs the snake by the face and rips him apart. Everyone in the room screamed and then cheered. That was the beginning of my love affair with the Wakulla County Public Library.
Simply look around and you...
Doug Jones.
Scott Joyner.
This was my first library job, and I became the director of Wakulla County Library in 1985. And I just retired as the director in April 30th, 2011. For the past 2 years, Scott has been, for all practical purposes, managing the library.
I'm now the interim library director. I became that upon Doug's retirement. The interim title will be removed once I get my master's in library and information studies, which, knock on wood, will be next spring. And I came down here because there was a job opening to be the library services coordinator, essentially Doug's number 2, in summer of 2007. Lucky enough to get the job and served under Doug here in the building for the first 2 years, my tenure here. And then when Doug became public services director, he moved to the TCC annex. But as far as the day-to-day running of the library, I took on those duties.
We started out in the early 70s as a branch of Leon County Public Library. We were located in what was then the Raywinkle store, which is now the offices of Francie Casey Lowe on the corner by the courthouse, by the stoplight. Moved into the old courthouse in 1976 and became Wakulla County Public Library. We're no longer affiliated with Leon County. Bobby Stevens and Irvin Jackson were a couple of the very first employees that ran the library. Verna Brock was then library director for several years. She was followed by Sue Crum, who left shortly before I was hired in 1985. It has evolved greatly over those past 25 years. When we first started here, the library was located in the old county courthouse. And Wakulla was a much sleepier town then. We expanded the hours and opened on Saturdays, and often one person had to work on Saturday to cover the shop. You could sit there for hours and nobody'd even come in. But in the 90s, things picked up quite a bit. The library use expanded a lot. The needs to expand our facilities was real evident. That's when the computer age in libraries began, and we had no way to accommodate that in the old courthouse. In fact, we were packed to the brim with books, and the building was 4 separate rooms, none of which any staff could monitor. So it was not an ideal library situation, and being a building made out of fat lighter pine, we were all very afraid of what a fire might do. When I started, we had no computers. Everything was done manually. We had the traditional old-fashioned card catalog, which was very labor-intensive, but all of that is done electronically now. People can, of course, look and see what we have in our collection of books, videos, DVDs, audiobooks from home. That was not a capability that anyone had. In the mid-90s, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation offered rural libraries an opportunity to get free computers, and we jumped right on it and got our first computers through a Bill and Melinda Gates grant, and it's just mushroomed since then.
How does funding for the Wakulla Library work?
Well, each year due to the current budget crisis. The State Aid to Libraries program that comes from the State Library of Florida provides nearly a third of our budget. The purpose of that program is to give incentives to the local community, the local governments, to put money into the library, because it's essentially a matching program. The more money Wakulla County government puts into us, the more that we can get in state aid. But that has been a constant battle to make sure state aid gets funded each of the past 3 or 4 years now. And all it takes is me mentioning it in my article, or I send out a weekly email newsletter that goes to, we're nearing 1,500 people now, that, it's state aid time again. Please contact your legislators and tell them how important the library is to you. We tell them to keep it positive. They just bombard the Capitol to the point that last year their internet system crashed, because this would cause libraries to close. It would be a huge hit to us. It's a third of our budget. And with the recent furlough hours, which have started, and we were closed on evenings and Saturdays, and I know the commission heard about that from our patronage as well. I kind of joke about this, but it's not really a joke. We're the one county entity, with a possible exception of probation, whose business goes up as the economy goes down.
It's a multi-county library cooperative where counties combine forces to provide things that they can't afford to do individually. The state provided incentives for rural counties primarily to interlocal agreements, so that primarily that automation and computer technology would be able to be provided in small rural counties and not just the urban situations in Florida. Actually, there was no county library in Franklin County when Wilderness Coast Public Libraries was created, but part of creating that entity also involved creating a county public library entity in Franklin County.
Andy, I'm from Franklin County. I work out this way, so I stop in when I can. Well, they certainly have a good selection of books and all my favorite authors, so I get to reserve them. And in fact, they have a agreement with Franklin County so that I can switch off, drop them off at that library if. So it's very convenient. Well, every way I go is about 30 miles. So my son used to be in the kids program before he went into school. So they have a reading and activities program in the morning for him. And they also had something in the summer. So it worked out very well. My wife kept busy with them while I was working.
I met with a young lady who runs a number of preschool programs during the morning hours.
Lelania Nichols. Well, during the school year, we have Book Babies, Book Bunch. Book Babies is a program designed for children from birth to about 3 years old. We read stories, we do finger plays, we listen to music, and a large portion of that hour is spent playing. We have a playtime, which is a great time for them to learn how to share and learn how to socialize. And Book Bunch is a preschool program. It's for 3, 4, 5. That you notice it kind of overlaps a little bit because it depends on the child. Some kids at 3 are ready to come up to the preschool program, and some want to stay and play a little longer. But in the preschool program, it's an hour as well. We read stories, we do songs, but instead of a playtime, we have a craft time. So they get to work with scissors and glue and cutting. Our crafts are related to the stories that we read. I have a theme each week. And I do try to hit on some of the preschool skills that they should be learning. Letters, shapes, colors, that sort of thing. We'll have fun with transportation, and oftentimes we do, in the spring, we do some planting and things like that. Those are my 2 main programs during the school year. Then in the summertime, that broadens because we serve all the way from birth to middle school. When I had my daughter, I used to teach first grade at MedArt, and I have my daughter Lily, who's almost 7, and I quit teaching, and I had been home with her for about 2 years, and I had been coming to the library program, and at that time, Bree Level was the children's librarian. Well, she got pregnant, and before she left on maternity leave, she asked me if I would be interested in covering just the children's programs for her. She was a full-time children's librarian. And I agreed, and it was just going to be while she was on maternity leave. And then she didn't come back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Doug kept me around. Oh, the parents love it. You know, we don't have a whole lot to do down here in the county. So it's, you know, not only is it good for the kids, but the parents really network. They find friends. And a lot of times you have groups that come together and get to know each other here, and then they start having play dates and doing things together outside of the library. But people often don't realize exactly what we have going on here for the kids. Even with the summer program, I've had families that have lived here for years. Had a few that showed up this summer. Oh, we had no idea you did this all summer long. So getting the word out there to people is important. Luckily, because the Friends support so much of our children's programs, I haven't really had to feel that impact as much as the rest of the library has. Of course, I can always wish for more stuff for the kids, but we work with what we've got. I mean, without the Friends, we wouldn't have it, no doubt.